impressions we believe. How is our mental body constituted? What does our mental body prefer? Does it feel more affinity for finding empirical evidence and then generalizing it into abstract concepts, as the natural scientist does? Or does it perhaps delight in traversing the abstract realms through introspection or symbolism, like with mathematics? And from such abstract concepts can derive predictions upon the world. As all of the planes of the world are intricately connected, yet layered. So just as with the emotional body, it behooves one to recognize our mental body as one that flows, one whose healthy function requires flow. And as I see it, our mental bodies is where our consciousness, where our awareness is placed a large portion of our time in modern Western society. Because we are deeply linked. No, not deeply. We have intricately linked ourselves with one another through the methods of society. And we use words constantly to communicate. And words, I feel, are more closely tied to the mental plane than to the others. They encompass concepts, abstract concepts, that whose structure, whose internal framework we are perhaps still building. At a more unfinished state than our emotional bodies. It is my hypothesis that our emotional bodies are still tuning themselves, and our awareness is required to look inside, to look into our emotions, and to help them move recognize our emotional body as a key part of ourselves. I feel would be of lasting benefit. To whomever undertakes it. And so I feel that our psyches and beings are layered from the physical through the emotional onto the mental and onto higher layers. In the sources I have read, the layer above, directly above the mental body, what is it? I seem to have forgotten. The fourth level, as I would say, seems to me to be somewhat associated to the heart, to our heart center, and to what we call our intuition. Knowledge, impulses that are soft within us, and yet they guide us in one direction or another. Somewhat in the realm of curiosity is that intuition. It is not mental. It flows from beyond the mental. And the mental can allow it to speak and to manifest itself through the body into, for example, a choice that we take of which path to take. or it can also choose to not believe it and continue doing things in the mental way. And it is my impression that in society, people often block their intuition. Sometimes by strong beliefs or a strong, dense covering, a thick, dense covering between our minds and our intuitions. Or perhaps our intuitions do speak and they say something. They give us some soft impulse. And the mind takes it in and compares it with what it has computed and inferred and realized, oh, this is the shortest path. And then some intuition comes along that seems to differ from the mental conclusion, and our mind can decide, no, reject. I will do what I want from the mental side. because of logic or such. And we have our layers. I feel that our layers are functional by allowing communication between us, by like that is their design. I feel their emergent design. They will all speak, and yet it is only the self that chooses where to place our awareness. And which voice we listen to. Each layer can speak. Yet only each of us chooses sometimes they intermix and they collaborate. As I feel now that my intuition is saying something that wants to be expressed, and my mind helps it by crafting the words and the expressions required and to convey it. And my emotions, they also open and they flower and they bud and they express when there is an emotion to be expressed. That is part of the communication. And it flows down into my body that actually exhales the air and shifts my vocal cords and my mouth and my tongue in the required fashion to evoke these words into the world. It is a group project, a collaborative project, all contributing. And it feels joyful when that happens, when that flow is harmonious, collaborative, coordinated. It feels good. It feels like joy, soft joy. I hypothesize that the basic manner in which our bodies into which our bodies function and communicate with each other is similar to the following. I feel that if I feel a sensation, for instance, I hear someone coming, a person, then this information will seek a place within ourselves to be processed. We'll seek a place within ourselves to be digested, to be used. There is information coming into us. The default choice is, let us choose what to do with it. Okay, there's something. I hear a person coming. Okay. Oh, okay, there's a noise. Noise. My body will probably recognize, this is a noise that is unexpected and is meaningful to my social plane. It is not just at the physical plane. There is something higher. And then it will bubble up. I feel it bubbles up to my emotional body, which then will likely feel a sensation of and feeling a person unexpectedly close to one is usually there's a cause for agitation, in my experience. So it likely causes agitation, and then because it's likely a person, it also still finds there's a social aspect there. It's not just emotional. There's something else, and then probably bubbles up into the mental body, and perhaps our mental body will also find a way to process it there and feel, is it the person that I'm? Who could it be? Could it be this person? Could it be that person? Could it be that person? Could it be a stranger? And then likely the mind will start looking for hints and differences in the sound to find which person could it be, and then perhaps take a choice depending on that. It will be very different if the person that's coming in is my housemate than if it is someone completely different that I do not know. And so it usually goes up to the mind, and then our mind chooses what to do. And it usually does not go up higher than that. Our minds are usually, as I mentioned, our minds are usually where most of our consciousness focuses on a lot. And then if it finds choice in the mental realm, this choice is likely transmitted down through our layers, down to the body, also as a choice, whatever that choice was. Whether that be, I'm going to get up and go say hi. Or, that person, I don't want to see them. Okay, I'm just going to hide in the kitchen. Or it's a stranger, who is it? And then maybe some emotion of slight fear can come along, because unknown usually springs up fear. The unknown. And so the flow, I feel, is layered. It comes in through whichever plane comes in, and then it tries to find a resolution. For instance, I am continuously hearing sounds of cars passing through, and they barely register in my mental plane. I know they're there, and yet they're discarded. They are, I feel they're even taken care of at the physical level. They barely come up into my consciousness, just as the digestion that is happening now because I ate a while ago. My heartbeat, my circulation, my posture, that's all processed in the body. The feeling of gravity remains in the body, it's processing it. It only bubbles up to the emotional level and higher what could not be processed in the body, which requires a subtler approach. And we have built these channels that know this. A sound of a car is very different from a sound of a person close, because they, in my experience, they mean different events that can happen. One is involved with social activity, one is not. And so I feel that, yes, this flow comes in, it's looking for a place of processing, looking for a place of digestion. And I feel in the healthy fashion, it finds a place of digestion, and it gets digested, perhaps in our mind. And I can see, oh yeah, it's my housemate. Oh, I choose to do nothing. And then I can move that signal back to my body and tell them, hey, it's okay. You need to do nothing. And that signal, I feel, is also important because it allows the body to relax. While the body had the signal pending, I feel it's still pending. It's still asking, hey, what do I do with this? I heard this person. What do I do with this? And then the mind can make up its mind and tell the body, and then the body goes, okay, I rest. That is something else I find valuable to accept within us. That each of us is made up of different parts. And these different entities communicate with each other. They intermingle. They coordinate. We are building, helping each other build. The default view, I believe, is that each person is a unit with one consciousness, one choice, and anything that this person does or speaks or says is attributed to one entity only, that person, and that is all. And there are all these questions of, where is the awareness? Where is it? Where is it? What is it? What is the core of us? And as I explore myself further, I find more and more clearly that we truly have multiple entities within us, many, by design, by the make of our physiologies, by the make of our distinct systems within us. The body itself has layers and layers and layers of just to hold up its structure and its movement and its flow and its signals and its biochemical signals, and our form and our the way we interact with the moisture and temperature and the potential dangers in the world. We are layered. And each layer has different entities within us. And each layer is an entity itself. And we as a human being, as our entity itself, each of our bodies, each of the flows, each of those concepts that get stuck, they develop identities. Because I feel, in truth, that each of us is constituted by flow. It is flow that moves and sometimes forms into structures, and sometimes congeals, and sometimes sticks, and sometimes melts, and sometimes moves, and sometimes stays still. We are flow. We are flow. And it happens that while we are human, we have committed to the human shape for some time. And here we are, committed to this form. Our physical bodies make sure of that. It stays alive. Even past sometimes the intent of people not wanting to be alive anymore. Like each of our entities has strength. It has a direction. It has its own nature. Layers. So yes, I feel that when sensations come into us, they bubble. They seek resolution. And when they cannot seek resolution where at the level they were felt, they bubble up to the higher level and to the higher level to find resolution. And it's my assessment that the human mind often has the belief that it can take care of anything. It often has the belief that it can deal with anything. It feels well armed with weapons of logic and imitation and words and numbers, quantities. Our society can be very quantified at times. It feels armed with this information, and we see structure that has structured itself, made frameworks along the mental plane. And often the mind feels self-sufficient, and it feels like, I can take care of it. I'll take care of it. Don't you worry. And so I have the feeling that sometimes when a sensation comes, when an input comes, and the mind gets it, it does not truly find a good place to process it. It does not find a correct way to process it, find a way to fully process it. But however, it can categorize it into a type of event. Oh, that's something we want to stay away of. Okay, that, and then we just stay away from it, and then the case is not solved, but it's evaded. However, if it's something that actually affected us, then it can stay stuck in us because it is not yet processed. Or perhaps it didn't get stuck. Perhaps we just ignored it. But what can happen is it can come into the mind, not be fully processed, and simply be led along the line of distraction, of rejection, of saying, no, I'm not doing that. Despite it not having been fully processed. And I believe that an alternative option for each of us is to instead acknowledge that the mind is not equipped, it's not correctly equipped to understand what is that current state, that thing. And it can bubble up the flow onto a higher, subtler level of us, to our intuition, so to say, so that it perhaps finds processing and guidance there. In our intuition, in my intuition, I receive information and it does not have necessarily a reason. I feel I am inputting information through my intuition that does not have logical root. I do not find a mental trace from my current mental state onto this information. I do not find a mental path. I can attach reasoning and justification later on and say, oh yes, that's probably because of this, that's probably because of that, or oh yeah, that was good because it allowed me to do that, like, and justify it or give it explanations or excuses or something. Yet there are times when I do not find a mental connection between my mental body and that information. And to me, that feels like intuition. It requires, however, that the mind allow the flow to bubble up. It requires the mind to recognize that this flow is something they don't know what to do. It does not know what to do with it. It does not know how to digest it, how to process it. It does not know a correct digestion method for it. It does not know. And only by that acknowledgement, I feel, it can surrender. and allow the flow to go somewhere else. Which is what I feel at times a person does when he or she prays. It involves a recognition of, I just don't know. I don't know what to do. It involves this acceptance, because only when the mind accepts, the inability to process it, is this flow allowed to bubble further and to move into the subtler bodies I posit we also have, that can help us process this inflow, this thing, sometimes called problems, fully and completely, which could also be called correctly. Can I digest it fully? Can I truly understand it, encompass it, hold it, know it, and give me the information required to choose my next step? From there, I feel sometimes from intuition can come information that the mind can translate as words. And yet, in my experience, often there is no mental path to trace between my mind and that new information. And it is quite often the case that when I allow this intuitive information to flow down through my bodies and to help guide the choice that I make, often this choice feels correct. It feels beneficial, by which I mean it encourages flow in the world. It encourages whatever problem I have to move, to change, to flow. And sometimes that could be called resolving the problem. There was a problem and it flowed enough, and then, oh, it's over there. Oh, it's not my problem anymore. Okay, out. In my experience, this information can help. It often helps. I have grown trust within me by experiencing repeatedly the blessings. Or in other words, the benefits of listening to my intuition. Unexpected, unexplained, magic-like events that occur when I follow this intuition. Another important aspect I find to be recognized in the layers of my being is that it is when a denser lower layer flows harmoniously, has few blockages, has balance with itself and with the world, can we listen to our higher, subtler levels. When for example, I break a leg, I will be very uninterested in that moment to consider whether I am feeling sad or angry or grieving or joyful or euphoric. I will put very little attention to that because my attention will be focused on fixing myself, on fixing my body, on fixing my leg. Whether it involves putting a stint around it, if that's the correct word, or finding a doctor, or finding some kind of pain pills to not feel acute pain in the moment. Everything else is unimportant. I don't care what I feel. I don't care what I think. I want to fix myself. It's similar to health when they say, oh, health is the most important thing. Well, if we don't have health, we are like physical health, we can be constantly afflicted by a problem. If one person has excess mass in their body, they are big and round and heavy, and that causes them to have perhaps blood pressure problems or heat regulation problems. That is a constant friction on their lives. It's a constant friction because the body is suffering. It's not in balance, and it's alerting. It's signaling, saying, "Hey, something's something different. Something's right. Something's not something's not right. And it's constantly saying it. If it's constant, it will say it, however, whenever it is felt, but it's there. And so there's constantly energies leaking down there because it's saying, hey, 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 help, 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 help. And it's saying it to the other layers. If we choose to ignore it, the signals will continue because the body is asking for help. Or if we can choose to do something about it, and then we can either go to the doctor and fix my leg, or take up some kind of lifestyle change that allows our body to find balance. Yet then we can choose how to react to that signal. In a similar way, if our body is healthy and we can move and everything works fine in balance, and yet there is, and perhaps I am afflicted perhaps by anger, by unexpressed anger towards a certain person, then that anger can be constantly also like spiking a little thorn, some kind of pressure that does not, that takes away our energy, takes away our attention as well. If we're in love and we're just thinking of a person all the time and we want to be with them, that's a usage of energy. It's something is signaling, saying, I want this. There's a unprocessed flow. An unprocessed flow, it's not in balance. Something's not in balance. Then it will not allow us to place energy, in this example, in the higher layer, the thoughts. It's very common to say that, oh, when you're in love, logic doesn't matter. When you're in love, nothing else matters. Like that. It's an unprocessed emotion. Balance. When we and analogously, when our mind is not in balance, perhaps because it can feel that it can do everything, perhaps in a feeling of hubris, it is sucking the energy. It is asking for the energy. And I imagine perhaps it does not allow the energy to flow to higher levels, like our intuition. And I find that when our layers are in balance, and I find harmonious flow in each of my bodies, and I find and resolve. Accumulated imbalances inside. I find find more frequently a state of peace. There is a lack of need to do any particular thing. My body is taken care of with enough food, drink, and a good environment. And my emotions are taken care of by correct expression of them. When my mind is taken care of by finding clarity. They do not emit these signals that can distract us. My experience with distraction is most my experience with distraction is most clear in my mind. There are sometimes when my body is healthy, well, in balance, and does not lack, does not need. And I find emotional balance, and my emotions are not pulling me one way or another, and I feel no lack or need in my emotions. My mind at times is distracted, and it almost feels as if it wants to be distracted. It's asking, it's begging to be distracted by something. If there's I have no, if my body's fine, my emotions are fine, if my tasks are done, my mental tasks are done, and I'm just sitting, my mind has at times sought for something to do. Almost desperate. Almost like, I have nothing to do. I have nothing to do. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? There's this lack. There's this peace. There's a lack of peace. There's an anxiety of what to do. And then I end up like looking at my phone and going through my messages. Oh, did I need to do something else? What did I miss? Oh, did I need to do this conversation? Well, I can't do that today. Oh, okay. Well, what can I do? I did laundry. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go outside and I walk. Like I just find something to do. It doesn't quite matter what I choose to do. What matters is the distraction that my mind shows. Because I feel that in the past, I have held the belief that if I am not doing anything, I am wasting time. wasting time. And that is, that belief is screwed in by common scientific education that I received. As scientific education in engineering and these topics of the quantities and measurements, they very often seek to optimize. They seek to maximize. Like if you have $80 or $100, which one do you want? $100, of course. Like if you can, in each day, you can go ahead and either milk 20 cows or you can milk 30 cows. Which one do you prefer? You put 30 cows. It's like, or actually what you care about is the amount of milk you would get. My point is, maximization is it's an ingrained belief that I find we have had in our society for a while, especially in the last 150 years or so, I'd say, and coming from the rise of widespread arithmetic education. Because in our current concept of mathematics, and mathematics as we understand it, arithmetic, optimization and maximization are special. They're the key. They're the correct answer. Like that's the best. And then one's mind can be constantly drawn to the best. So when comparing the moment of right now, like, oh, I'm doing nothing. Okay, I'm doing nothing. Nothing feels absent. It feels like there is something that could be done there. There is productivity there, potential productivity being wasted. And that wastefulness is something that this belief repels. It's like, no, we're not going to waste. We're not going to waste time. What do you mean waste time? No. We have to do. We need to be productive. We need to make more, make. Do. Be productive. Maximize. And in truth, we don't need to. There is no need. There are bodies. We have our layers. We have our bodies, and taking care of them is important. It's good to keep our bodies healthy, our physical bodies healthy. It's good to find what emotions we have and find expressions for it, find in correct expressions. I would say that social customs actually allowed some of this emotions to pass through. Talking with friends, being able to express our emotions somewhere, it helps. Our mind, my mind. Now recognizes that there are times when my body is well taken care of, my emotional body is well taken care of, my thoughts feel in balance, And there is no correct, logical task or activity to take, some productivity to fulfill in the moment. At times there is none. And I feel my mind now recognizes that. There are moments when action or productivity is unnecessary. And when I found that my mind accepted this, I found myself able to sit, feel, and not need. Not need action, not need inputs, not need social interaction, social attention, sexual interactions, food, inflow of new ideas and learning. It does not need to find people to express gratitude to. It does not feel the need to find new interactions. It can sit. My physical body and my emotional body and my mental body sit. And I feel a feeling of vacuum that I describe as peace. And at times information comes, presumably from my intuition. That sometimes gives me guidance for further action, sometimes simply for further thought. And sometimes this information comes into the mind and it finds logical processing. The mind finds that it can take this information and develop it into logical structures. It finds wonders as it processes this. And it at times desires to express it into the physical world and to share it. As words. Body posture. And my image.